I think back, there were an awful lot of us who spent their whole lives in this place. That's why it succeeded.
The Grand is the most beautiful and most actor-friendly performing space in the country.
And at the end, when you're taking the curtain calls and you hear that applauding, you just say, this is what it's all about. This is why I'm doing it.
I think they're very fortunate to have as nice a theater as the Grand Theater. I think any community could be proud of that theater.
It was built a century ago to show long-forgotten melodramas and musicals. It stayed around to become the oldest continually performing playhouse in our country. It has attracted the attention of international celebrities, and it is reportedly haunted by the ghost of a former owner. For its audiences and actors, it is simply the Grand. And for them, the story of this London, Ontario theatre is more fascinating than anything it has ever staged.
Very often the plays and the stories we see told on our stages are about transformation. Very often characters start in one place and go through a series of events, and by the end they are transformed by the experience. And I think of the theatre very much like that, in terms of it's had a rich and long history. It's had many roles within this community and taken on many different shapes. And I get the feeling that it's happiest as a theatre.
I came to the Grand when I was a kid to come see plays. And I used to go up to the gallery, or it's called the Gods in our days, and climb about, I don't know how many flights of stairs to get up there. I used to get here early to get in the front row, you know, and have a good look because you're way up there. You ever in the Gods at all? And yeah, way up there. And I look over, you know, and see all the people coming in the main seats down below, and I thought, oh God, it'd be nice to have some money to sit in one of those seats down there, you see.
The Stars have drawn audiences to every seat of the Grand since its first season, when it featured American bandmaster John Philip Sousa and an eccentric juggler and future comedian named W.C. Fields. Other celebrities followed. Former heavyweight boxing champion, Gentleman Jim Corbett, appeared in a play tailored to his limited acting abilities. Ethel Barrymore's wardrobe made a bigger impression on the critics than the overplotted melodrama she headlined. And Sarah Bernhardt performed the death scene from Camille, despite the loss of a pet poodle which had been refused entry into Canada by customs officials. The dog was one of the few things the Grand's owner, Ambrose Small, couldn't get into his theatre.
He just got on the phones, worked his contacts, and brought the shows through in just a blur of activity. At his absolute peak, it is said that Ambrose Small had something going on in this theatre 300 days of the year. And if you realize that there are 365 days in the year and 52 of those days would have been Sundays, that means there weren't very many days when, for any reason whatsoever, the Grand was allowed to go dark.
But the rise of motion pictures meant fewer touring shows at the Grand. Tickets for movies were cheaper and showcased Hollywood stars that no one could afford to bring to Canada.
Witness the crowd that welcomed Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford, Canada's sweetheart, and originally just Gladys Smith of Toronto.
But one former Londoner refused to stay away. The son of fugitive slaves, Richard Berry Harrison was the most famous black actor of his day. He came to the Grand in October 1934 to appear in The Green Pastures, a folksy retelling of the Bible. Harrison was given the freedom of the city by London's mayor, the first time a black Londoner received such an honor.
They all told me that they knew all along, from the day I left home, that I would make good. They didn't know anything about all the cheese and crackers and sardines and bologna I ate before I ever found any success. Richard Berry Harrison.
In 1947, John Gielgud confounded the critics by kicking off his North American tour at the Grand instead of New York. Gielgud was so impressed with the reception, he cut his Broadway engagements short so he could return to London.
We opened our tour in London, Ontario. We had really wonderful audiences there, packed houses at every performance, and most responsive they were too. It was absolutely thrilling. Just 1 week after we'd left London, England, we were in London, Canada, complete with the Canadian River Thames and everything. We felt at home right away.
Overnight, London had become the Broadway of the North, with the ticket orders to prove it. Madeleine Carroll rehearsed and premiered a new play on the Grand stage. Michael Redgrave struggled through Macbeth with a bad cold. Donald Wolfett so thoroughly exhausted himself doing King Lear that he hung onto the act curtain as he took his bows. Even Alec Guinness was scheduled to direct Twelfth Night at the Grand, but the engagement fell through. It was one of the few disappointments for London audiences.
Charles Laughton came to town with his one-man show of readings from Dickens, the Bible, Shakespeare, everything. That night I went backstage, and there is Laughton, the greatest of them all by himself, backstage in this vast backstage of the Grand Theater. I go over tentatively, introduce myself, expecting to be chewed up or decapitated or whatever. He was most gracious, looked around the backstage of the Grand, and said, "Wonderful theater this, isn't it? It's known all over the world, you know."
But by the mid-1970s, the beauty of the Grand was at risk. Decades of plays and performances had left the building structurally unsound. William Hart, one of Canada's greatest actors, realized those challenges when he became the theatre's artistic director.
Theatre London at the moment is in a treadwater situation, a status quo situation. Whatever philosophies and policies I have will begin to emerge when the new building is opened in the fall of 1978. So at the moment I'm a caretaker, artistic director, and then I hope that the leading part of it will come in a couple of years from now.
After a year of renovations, the new Grand welcomed the crowds back. The season included the world premiere of the play John A. himself, written by Timothy Findlay and starring William Hart in the title role. What Mr. Hart did there was amazing. He opened that newly renovated building and gave it a focus through his own personality, which was remarkable. In 1992, William Hart was honored with the first Governor General's Award for Lifetime Achievement in the Canadian Theatre. The award was presented on the stage at the Grand.